Welcome to episode 282 of That Great Business Show. I am Conall Ó Móráin. Now here's something worth thinking about. All the noise now is about AI. Meanwhile, quantum computing is coming up fast on the outside. And here's the simplest thing, or simplest way to understand it. If AI helps you do things faster, quantum lets you do things that were thought never possible at all. Things like finding new drugs in days instead of decades, untangling traffic, energy and supply systems that overwhelm today's computers, solving problems with so many variables that even the biggest supercomputers just give up. Today we are talking to one of the few companies making quantum real. My guest is Jason Lynch, CEO of Equal One, the Irish quantum company that's just raised $60 million, led by the Ireland Strategic Investment Fund, to build quantum computers, and this is important, using the same silicon fabs that already make today's chips. We'll find out why that is important. Jason did join us before, back on episode 58, 2021. So, as we like to say, an overnight success after 5 years. Before we go any further, there is a deal we want you to agree to. We do the groundwork with the podcast. You get the benefit. All we ask is that you subscribe to Build the Tribe. Acast, Spotify, Apple, YouTube. Just hit subscribe. And That Great Business Show is brought to you by our pals at De Facto Shaving Oil. Made in Mayo, no foam, no nonsense, and none of those horrible pressured cans going straight into landfill. defactoshave.com. Jason Lynch, welcome back to That Great Business Show.
Thank you, Conall. It's been a fast 5 years.
Fast and wobbly. And after 5 years, you've raised 60 million quid. And the first thing you told me is, it's not enough.
Yes, this is it's a big target we have. It's a big challenge. So we will need more, but certainly this gets us on the road to the next phase, which is really scaling, and we can talk about sort of what we've achieved, I suppose, in the 7 years that since we've started, and what we're going to use that money for. But hugely excited, hugely thankful for our investors. It's a massive, vote of confidence in terms of the team and what we've done, and so we're absolutely delighted and excited now for the next phase.
And you are in the right place at the right time for many, many, many reasons. Everybody's talking about AI. They will be talking about quantum. And because of the spade work you've already put in, you are positively ahead of the curve.
Absolutely. So what and you mentioned it in the intro, what our whole thesis and vision, I suppose, was if we can build quantum on existing semiconductor processes, which is different to what some of the other companies are doing, we can do it cheaper, smaller, faster, and we can accelerate this thing. So, what other companies are doing is trying to redo or repeat Moore's Law. That's going to take a long time. It's going to take massive investment. What we've been proving here for the last 7 years, and to be totally open, people said this couldn't be done back before we started. What we now have proved is that you can actually do it. You can make these strange things called qubits, which we can talk about, which is the magic of what a quantum computer is. You can make them at these temperatures that are almost as cold as outer space, and you can put all that in a rack server that can go into data centers today with no special infrastructure. So we've proved all that now, and really this funding round is to scale that up to show that, okay, we can go from where we are today to the next phase.
And I want to come to some of those wows that you may be able to do in the future. But one of the good things about what you're doing, about your technology, is when anybody hears data centers, they hear power, water, etc., etc. Not anymore. Why?
So absolutely. So I suppose if you start with why quantum is so exciting and what it can do, it's an exponential technology, and that word is bandied about a lot without really the true meaning of it. Quantum is a truly exponential technology. So what do we mean by that? What we mean is when you add one of these qubits to your quantum computer, every time you add it, you double the compute power. And that means if you have, actually the stat is if we have 50 extremely good qubits, you have more computing power than all of the computers in the world put together.
That is mad.
It's crazy. I mean, I think we literally can't imagine. I mean, it's kind of like, back in the 50s when you got the first transistor, trying to imagine what it would bring from to today with the 300 billion transistors we have on a smartphone.
Well, give me some of the future and tell me what you think that it might actually deliver.
Sure. So I think there's three big areas that we're really excited about, right? One is material simulation. So you sort of alluded to it as well in your intro. One of the things we can't do today on any computer with any sort of even the most powerful AI is simulate molecules and simulate how they interact. Well, quantum computers actually do that pretty well. Richard Feynman, said, who was sort of the father of quantum. He was a very famous physicist. He said, nature is quantum, so we're going to need quantum computers to simulate nature. And so the promise is, if you take drugs, for instance, it takes...
No, I don't think you mean take drugs. Make drugs.
Yes, if you take drugs as an example, medicine drugs, it takes about 15 years and $1.5 billion to bring one single drug to market. And a big portion of that time and money is because we have to, and if you step back and think about it, we take it for granted, but we put these things into human bodies and human trials because we're not sure whether they're going to react differently, whether they're safe, whether they're effective. And the promise of a quantum computer powerful enough is that we can simulate that on the computer. So shortening that 15 years, shortening the investment, and potentially getting a lot more new medicines to solve, a lot of the challenges that we have in healthcare today. It's related to that, I suppose, is new materials for batteries. So I think, you look at sustainability, you look at how we move to a more sustainable world. One of the big challenges, like you look at lithium batteries, and if you look at the curve of the progress of lithium batteries over the last 40 years, it's a very straight line at about 4% per year improvement in capacity. And again, the reason for that is, when we pick this new way of doing the molecule, we need to make it, put it into a lab, do environmental tests, stress tests, and it takes, a long time to figure out, is this better than the last iteration? So again, the promise is we can simulate that on a quantum computer. And, so our belief is we can get to a more sustainable world. So quantum can be used as a tool to get a much more sustainable environment, materials, much faster than if we don't have quantum computers. So that's one area. The second area, and I suppose, I would say at board tables around all of the biggest companies in the world, quantum is on the agenda here because there probably isn't a company that quantum is going to affect. So the second...
Not going to affect. In other words, every company
is going to be affected and potentially disrupted. The second area is optimization. And again, every business has optimization problems. If you look at logistics or network optimization, or one of the areas we're looking at, we have a DTIF program started, Disruptive Technology Innovation Fund, which is funded by the Irish government. We have the biggest one yet starting on the 1st of March. We can go more into lots of exciting partners. But one of the areas we're looking at is the energy grid and Ireland's energy grid. And again, it's very, if you look at the old energy grid, let's say, very centralized, you have, a couple of power plants that's feeding everything. You look at when we bring renewables on, it's going to completely change. You now have sources and sinks all over the place between, I'll generate solar, I can give some back. Where does that go? It's a massive optimization problem. Quantum does that very well. banks, portfolio optimization. So, you take your retirement fund and how you pick the stocks, and that's a massive optimization and variable problem. And, when we get to not even hundreds of variables, tens of variables on classical computers, it just explodes, and we can't solve it. And so
if you can handle beyond tens, beyond hundreds,
into the thousands and ultimately hundreds of thousands of variables. Again, it's a characteristic of quantum that it does these problems very well. So optimization is the second big one. And then the third one is AI, and you talked about sort of energy and the challenge that we have in AI today. I mean, I think as fantastic as AI is, we've taken a wrong turn. I think I've heard the sort of comparison, and I think it's a good one, between our brain, which takes 20 watts of power, I think. And you look at these latest LLMs and they're taking megawatts or even, more of power. We've done, there's something that we've done wrong in the optimization of this. And our belief is, you're really trying to do a probabilistic engine in a classical computer. Quantum is naturally probabilistic and will do this much more efficiently. So the hope and the expectation is that we will put AI on a much more sustainable trajectory when quantum computers come online.
Now, you've said at the very beginning, you said you have already been doing this for 7 years. 7 years ago, people did say, ain't going to happen. You're getting closer and closer. When will we actually see something that you and I will be able to watch or see or act on or push buttons here?
I think, and it's interesting, like you say, I think the thing of there hasn't been a quantum winter. The investment and the momentum has not slowed down or let up, and I think that's because.
But it hasn't been huge either. I mean, AI, you can just put AI onto anything to get a zillion.
Yes, it hasn't been, but I suppose the reason for that is quantum is really, really hard, and we'll talk about why it's really hard. But I think as difficult as it is, and like you say, there were doubters. I don't think there's too many now, but there were doubters back saying this is never going to work. I think what the industry has shown, what we have shown, what others have shown is a continual progress of, first of all, they said, I mean, you go back to Einstein, he couldn't believe quantum, that was the thing that he said, okay, I can't believe that this quantum stuff is real. We've now, and actually it was an Irish physicist. I mean, not a lot of Irish people know this, I don't think, but we've named our machine, our first product, which we've sold to the European Space Agency. We can talk about that as well. We've called it Bell 1.
And I was looking at that name and I was thinking, Bell Laboratories, have they not come knocking on your door saying, don't be using our name?
No, it's actually named after the physicist, John Stuart Bell, who was born in Belfast, ended up in the US. And it's now his experiment in his paper, which was published 50 years ago, was the first experimental proof of, that quantum was real. And everybody in the industry talks about Bell's inequality as the very first proof that you do actually have a quantum.
Good man, Mr. Bell, or
absolutely.
Professor Bell, or Dr. Bell, I'm sure he was.
Absolutely.
So come back to my question there is, when will we physically see, touch, feel?
So I think that the interesting thing today, and we've just done a big exercise in terms of now ramping up for our next phase on our roadmap, and so the team has been, for the last month, heads down, busy. And the interesting thing actually is that you see a lot of the roadmaps converging. So to answer your question straight, I think 2031 is the year we believe, and lots of companies believe, enterprise-grade quantum computers will be available, and we will be able to affect some of these applications.
If you go back to when we first spoke, which is 5 years ago, that's just 5 years ahead.
Exactly.
So it's not that far in my head.
Absolutely. And that's why I think, the other thing about quantum, number one, it's very difficult to control these qubits. They're very fragile. They need to be cooled to, very low temperatures. But
minus 237 Kelvin or something. Is that what I saw?
Yeah, so the way to think about it is it's 0.3 degrees above absolute zero. It's colder than outer space, so it's very cold. Now, the funny thing is our qubits are actually called hot qubits because there are other approaches where you need to go to 0.1 or 0.2 or 0.02 degrees above absolute zero. So we actually
positively steaming.
It's balmy up where we are, which enables actually the form factor that we get. So look, I think so what I was saying on the other side of it is this is very different to how you program and how a software developer would program a classical computer. So I think the thing that companies are realizing is we can't just wait till this arrives because it'll be too late, right? Our competitors will have a head start. So you see a lot of companies today, a lot of interest from, again, all the big pharmas, all the big banks, who are starting to build quantum teams, starting to look at this stuff in the planning for when this actually arrives. And it is just, very, very different, a kind of a complete paradigm change in terms of how you program these qubits and how you program the quantum computer.
And I presume if we approach 5 years hence, when this may actually start working, there'll be it'll take off. There'll be an acceleration of cash, just like we've seen with AI, everybody chucking cash at you. And I presume for the last couple of years, you've been living on fumes.
Absolutely. So, we're looking forward to that day when they'll be throwing cash at us. But yes, I think there's a tipping point. And again, I think, what the industry is grappling with today. So we talked about kind of the people who said you could never do a qubit. We've done that. The industry now has done multiple qubits. We've done 6. We'll go to, 50 in the next year.
When you say we equal 1?
Equal 1. The industry has maybe done 100, 100 or maybe a bit more than 100.
But the difference being that you've taken a different approach.
Exactly. So we've taken an approach that we believe will allow us to scale much faster because we're on these, manufacturing lines that exist today, whereas a lot of these other companies need to develop them, so they're not in existence. And even though they're a little bit ahead of us today, our belief is we will, once we get to the next phase, we will accelerate and we'll be exponential in our development.
Well, I'm smiling inside because there's one company that we all know who needs something like this to retransform themselves. Intel famously missed out on mobile. Maybe Intel down in Leixlip might like to have a chat. Have you had the chats with them?
Well, interestingly enough, I mean, all of the big players have a quantum effort going on. IBM, Google, Microsoft, and Intel are probably closest to us in terms of how they're doing it. So they're actually more of a competitor today than anything else.
Well, I was thinking more about fabrication of your chips.
Yeah,
they need something. They need a winner.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked to everybody. They are looking at going to more of an external customer using their fab. So we've talked to them and talked to TSMC and we're on Global Foundries, so we're talking to everybody.
You must be a busy boy.
Absolutely. Was in Japan last week.
That's why you weren't here last week, you remember?
Yes. So yeah, look, but it's great. It's hugely exciting, hugely energizing.
And you're Irish.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
yes.
Fantastic. It's brilliant. Again, I don't know why we think it, but I always imagine, I don't know, Taiwanese or maybe the Chinese, whatever, coming up with this. But you have been hammering or digging away at this for, as we say, 7 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you, during those 7 years, have a little wonder? Did you say, can't do this, can't keep going?
No, I wouldn't say that. I mean, there was days when it was tough, and
Does that make you tough or mad?
Oh, absolutely.
Or mad?
Both probably. But for sure, I've about 10 layers of tougher skin on me than when I came in here 5 years ago, which again I think is a good thing. I'll probably need another 10 layers before we end this.
I know, because now we both agree the tide has turned. The naysayers are no more.
Absolutely. And now it's not, there is challenges, there is, there is engineering challenges, but yeah, absolutely. I think there is a turning and now it is, now it's not, is quantum going to happen? It's really a discussion on, is it going to be 3 years? Is it going to be 5 years? I mean, there's a CEO of a public company yesterday who said, he believes it's going to be within the term of the current administration in the US. So that's only
Which
3
CEO
years.
is that?
IonQ. So IonQ is one of the handful of publicly traded quantum companies, and he was so that's his view.
The reason
yesterday.
I mention that is because Musk had his numbers out yesterday as well, and I didn't see anything. He wasn't mentioning that. He was mentioning everything else except. Anyway, we won't go down that road because I want to know now. Again, 60 million in the bank. I hope it's in the bank anyway. You're going to go again. At what point? How much do you have to raise over those 5 years? Do you think? And how big does the company, is that investment in hardware, in data centers, or is it in humans?
Mm-hmm. It's in both. I mean, we have, so in terms of the number, we think we're going to need, somewhere around 400 million on the whole journey. Now, the nice thing about quantum computing is if you sell one of these machines, they're not cheap, right? Now, from our perspective, compared to some of the others, we're the cheapest quantum computer in town.
How much is it? What's the ticket price?
Well, we've the ticket price for the current one is €2 million. So
okay.
Probably going to 5 million or something in the next generation. So the nice thing is you sell 20 of those and you have 100 million, or whatever the gross margin is on that. So that'll help with the 400 million. But this, and again, I suppose that number may seem large to people, I'd imagine.
But not anymore because of the way that AI has been funded.
Exactly, that's the point. There's billions going into AI. There's billions.
I think we're to trillions at this stage.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So, this is a bargain. So if anybody wants to put, anybody listening wants to come in for...
Well, their pension fund is in there now with ISIF, isn't that right?
Yes.
And who else backed you?
So Atlantic Bridge. So so we have Atlantic Bridge have been with us from the very beginning, along with Enterprise Ireland. So both Atlantic Bridge and Enterprise Ireland have written every check from the very beginning, and we're hugely thankful to them. We have the European Innovation Council came in a number of years ago. So there is
was that equity or was that a grant?
It's mostly equity, but they also have some grant. And so they have, funded, I think it's 28 companies around Europe in quantum. There's a big fund there. And so we would hope that, again, they're willing to stay with us on the journey. We've a fund in Germany, Matterwave. And then the new investors in this round were ISIF led it. And again, this is
That's the strategic
fantastic
investment fund. Yeah.
Exactly. So, fantastic, I think, story for us and Ireland. I think they've made a bet that this is strategic for the country, and they've backed us. And we've also had Elkstone also have joined as
so you've got a
investor.
full house of Irish investors. That's good.
It's a great. Look, it's a fantastic Irish story. I think there's a lot of, in the last 5 years, there's a lot of talk about government and the country needing to help our startups and help our scale-ups. And I think this is one example of them stepping up and really putting their money where their mouth is and, backing an Irish company here in a hugely important space.
Now, I've been around a bit, so I've kind of heard stories and about businesses. And if you may remember, if you go back enough, that we wanted an Irish Nokia. Any chance that you might be that?
So who we sort of look at and say we want to be is Nvidia,
Oh, of course, yeah. I shouldn't actually say, to those who don't know the full Nokia story, it was huge once upon a time.
It was, yeah. That's why I'm reluctant to say Nokia, because they're no longer, but Nvidia...
They're still in business, but
they are.
Not in the way that they were.
They are, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Are you going to be
why not?
the poster boy for Ireland
Absolutely.
tech?
I mean, I think the question is why not? I mean...
Because you might sell out.
Well, look, I think what we need to have is enough support to stay the course and build that company. And if that's the case, then that's what we'll do, right? If we can continue to get investors, continue to grow, then, there is no reason. I mean, you look at Ireland. I went through the multinational with Analog Devices, and it's a massively successful story. We have some of the best people all over, from technology to business, in our multinationals. So why not have a homegrown Nvidia? There is no reason why we shouldn't be aspiring to that. That's what we aspire to, and why not, I would ask.
Isn't it funny, if you go back through the economic history, it would have been T.K. Whittaker and Sean Lemass made it so that those companies, the Analog Devices, came in here, trained you, and you can just see it. I love those dots being joined.
Yeah. And I think, if you look at Ireland, one of the things I think that this investment sort of cements is we have an opportunity here, but time is running out to some extent, right? You look at every country is looking at quantum as a sovereign imperative, right? That's
including Mr. Trump, I'm
absolutely.
Sure.
What we have in Ireland here, I think, is the core of a very vibrant multinational space in pharma, which we talked about earlier, going to be massively affected. Semiconductors, banking, and I think that thing we talk about, which is in Ireland, you can get to the Taoiseach and you can make connections very easily. So we're small enough to have very good relationships, but large enough to do things on a global scale. So we can leverage that, but time is running out. There are countries moving, there's countries putting a lot of money into this.
So what do you need? What do you want? I'm hearing a kind of a gentle jibe there, or... Well,
I think, look... I would say what we would love sort of an initiative to pull together everybody and say, okay, and I think DTIF to some extent will do that. We have Dell involved, we have ourselves, Biosimilytics, which is a drug discovery startup out of UCD as well, Nexus, which is doing a lot of...
Give Nexus a shout out, because that's where you're based, isn't that right?
That's Nexus, that's where we're based. This is Nexus. They're actually a company doing...
That's a new one, sorry, Nexus.
Yeah,
sorry.
They're doing cooling for data centers. So they're simulating all of the cooling in the data centers. So that's an example. And we have, UCD and Cedar and the Irish Manufacturing Research Centre all in this project, all working towards driving quantum on. I think we need more of that. There's a very good initiative, Quantum Ireland, which is being led by Mike Daskal from Fidelity. So Fidelity have a quantum group here in Dublin. So I think the more we can build a community here, which includes research, academics, SMEs and multinationals, the stronger we can become. And, frankly, the challenge right now is that if you look at the FDI perspective and you look at pharma, we will always be in the top 3. We will always be considered. You look at semiconductors, it's similar. Quantum, we're not there at the moment. We would not be one of the ones where a company would say, okay, where should I go if I want to leverage this big quantum wave that's coming?
No government minister taking ownership of it?
I think that, Minister Burke, I think very much is aware, and, we've had conversations and he's very supportive, and, obviously Enterprise Ireland, is rolls up to Minister Burke. So I would say every minister is aware of quantum. It's just pulling it all together into a cohesive strategy.
We'll send this podcast to them all. We have a final question. I can't remember whether we had a final question back when you were last on, but anyway, we still have a final question.
Great.
And that question is, who would you hire in a heartbeat?
Who would I hire in a heartbeat? Well, you mightn't like the answer given, but I think
it's Elon Musk. You can leave now.
I was going to say Elon Musk because as crazy as his stuff is, SpaceX, Tesla. You look at what he's built, and it's phenomenal.
Do you honestly want to have that unpleasant human being in the same room as you?
That is a challenge. So if you could get an Elon Musk that didn't have all the baggage, that would be the person I'd hire.
Anybody? You've got a fabulous team. I was looking at your website. They are from, as we say, the Chiara Horde, from the four corners of the earth.
Absolutely. I mean, we've built a hugely strong team, and I think, again, it's shown in what we've been able to deliver in the last 7 years. We've, coming from, Intel and Texas Instruments, and then on the science side, we've got, some of the best scientists. So, we've really, that's been a big thing here in the last 7 years, is trying to build a team that can, take these challenges and continue to beat them down.
Now, final question is, you told me that you're going to fund again, but for, I won't call them ordinary, for nice people who are listening and watching, is there any which way that they can get in? Because it is a fabulous opportunity. Until we go public, probably there won't be. That's a problem, isn't it? Yeah.
There won't be. So it does as we grow. It probably needs bigger check sizes. Yeah. So yes, if you want to write a check for 5 or 10 million, you can come and talk to me anytime. But hopefully within the next few years, we'll be going public, and people will be able to buy Equal One stock. And the
good news for them, they're already in there through ISIF. So yeah,
exactly,
indirectly,
exactly.
Don't leave it for another 5 years before you come back. So we will follow and follow.
Well,
and for people who don't know, I keep in constant contact with you.
Yeah, thank you. We appreciate the support.
Oh, no, I love it. I just think it's brilliant. Because that is it for episode 282 of That Great Business Show. You've just learned that while everyone is staring at AI, quantum computing is actually the one to watch. That's according to me anyway. Thanks to De Facto Shaving Oil, made in Mayo. No foam, no nonsense. It's excellent. DeFactoShave.com. Thanks to Peter Rice, Neil Horner, Richard Ryan and Lee Brennan at Dublin South FM. Proof that a studio full of grown adults can still behave like they're in a schoolyard and somehow get a podcast recorded. Remember the gentleman and ladies agreement. We do the work, you get the value. Subscribe to build the tribe. From me, Conall Ó Móráin, Cuireadh Míle Mágaí, agus Slán go Fóill.